It began on an ordinary Tuesday morning in a small-town gym just outside Atlanta. A place where men came to prove themselves, not just train. The smell of sweat, rubber mats, and pride filled the air. That morning, a few members gathered near the ring, whispering about a newcomer who called himself Coach Troy. A man in his 40s, confident, lean, and proud of his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He moved like someone who had never been challenged, or at least never humbled. But as fate would have it, the one person who would test him wasn't another fighter. It was the man holding a mop across the gym. A quiet janitor named Samuel finished cleaning near the lockers, humming softly to himself. He'd been working there for years, polite, unnoticed, and invisible to most. But that morning, Troy noticed him, not with respect, but with mockery. And by the end of that day, every soul in that gym would witness a lesson they would never forget. Samuel had started working at the gym 2 years ago. Most people barely knew his name. He was the kind of man who greeted everyone with a nod, kept the floor spotless, and never complained, even when others made jokes at his expense. He was in his late 50s, shoulders still strong but hands showing years of labor. Few knew that before he picked up a mop, he had once worn gloves, not for cleaning, but for fighting. Years back, Samuel had trained in traditional karate and later boxing, even earning local titles. But after an injury and life's detours, he had quietly stepped away from the ring. These days, his world was buckets, bleach, and broken treadmills. Yet, beneath that calm exterior was a discipline forged by time and humility, something a man like Troy had never learned. The gym had recently hired Troy as a self-defense instructor. He came with swagger, loud, energetic, and always eager to demonstrate his black belt. His classes drew crowds, mostly because he was entertaining, though not everyone admired his attitude. He had a habit of looking down on others, especially those he thought were beneath him. One afternoon, after his session, Troy noticed Samuel watching from a distance while wiping down a mirror. "You like what you see, old man?" Troy had laughed. Samuel just smiled softly, saying, "You move well." It wasn't sarcasm, just truth. But in Troy's pride-filled mind, it sounded like a challenge. Word spread fast. Troy had invited Samuel to spar, just for fun. Some members thought it was harmless. Others sensed something darker. Troy wanted to prove something, not just about martial arts but about dominance. To him, Samuel wasn't a man. He was a janitor. And Troy wanted to remind everyone of that. The next morning, the gym was buzzing. A few regulars stayed late just to watch. "Come on, it's just friendly practice," Troy said with a grin, wrapping his hands. Samuel hesitated at first, but there was a quiet firmness in his eyes. "All right," he said, "just light sparring." As they stepped onto the mat, something subtle shifted. Troy bounced with energy, showboating. Fake jabs, smirks, and teasing comments. Samuel stood still, calm, measuring every movement like a man reading a familiar book. The first minute was uneventful, Troy circling, Samuel watching. Then Troy lunged, a quick combination too fast for most. But Samuel slipped every strike with graceful precision. His movements were controlled, economical, and almost poetic. Laughter rippled through the crowd. "The janitor's got moves," someone shouted. Troy's smile faded. He came harder, faster, but every attempt met air. Samuel wasn't fighting, he was teaching, and that made Troy furious. Then came the moment everyone remembered. Troy, red-faced and sweating, tried to sweep Samuel's legs, but Samuel countered effortlessly, guiding Troy's weight with a pivot and sending him gently but firmly to the mat. The room went silent. Samuel hadn't hurt him. He simply showed mastery, not of violence but of control. Troy scrambled up, humiliated. "You think you're better than me?" he shouted. Samuel just shook his head. "No," he said softly, "but I think you forgot what martial arts were meant for." The crowd felt it, not as an insult but as the truth. Yet Troy's pride couldn't let it end there. He charged again, wild with anger. Samuel moved aside and, in one smooth motion, guided him into a hold so clean, so effortless, that the younger man froze, unable to move, unable to speak. Then Samuel released him, stepped back, and bowed. No gloating, no words, just silence and respect. The sound of that fall echoed louder than any punch. The entire gym stood still. Troy stayed on his knees, breathing heavily, his pride shattered. He looked up at Samuel, who quietly extended a hand. For a moment, the black belt hesitated. Then, realizing what had just happened, took it. Troy's face softened, the cockiness draining away. You trained," he said quietly. Samuel smiled faintly. "Long time ago," he replied, "but some lessons don't fade." In that instant, something changed in the room. The same people who once overlooked Samuel now looked at him with a new kind of reverence. They saw not a janitor, but a man of dignity, patience, and strength. Someone who carried real mastery, not for show, but for purpose. Troy stood, bowed deeply, and whispered something no one expected. "Thank you." For the first time, the lesson of humility had landed where ego once ruled. The man who came to teach had become the student, and the man who cleaned their floors had become the teacher. In the days that followed, the story spread far beyond that small gym. People shared it online, turning a simple sparring session into a quiet parable about pride and respect. Troy, to his credit, didn't hide from it. He began teaching differently, less showmanship, more sincerity. He even started a free weekend class for seniors, inspired by Samuel's example. And Samuel? He kept cleaning, same as before. When asked why he didn't show off his skill, he simply said, "It's not about showing off. It's about knowing when you don't have to." He became something of a quiet legend in the community. Some called him Sensei Sam, but he never embraced titles. He just kept sweeping, polishing, and smiling at those who now greeted him by name. That day, everyone learned that strength isn't found in belts or applause. It's found in restraint, humility, and grace under judgment. Because sometimes the people we overlook carry the deepest lessons of all. And if that day proved anything, it's that respect can't be earned through power. It's revealed through character.